Welcome to the Fandotech Friday 15 Technical Reconnaissance. Today's panel discussion was pre-recorded, so if you have any questions for members of the panel, leave us a comment on our blog. This week, our panel is discussing some of the latest IT news trends. Well, welcome everybody. With me today, speaking right now, is your moderator, Craig Sampson. I'm a web developer, and I want to introduce my two colleagues. We've got in one window here Mike Archick, if you could wave at us so we know who you are. Mike's our Director of Virtual Infrastructure. And also with me today is Chuck Lindblom, who's our data center technician, expert craftsman of all things data center. So today, we wanted to talk about a handful of issues. And I want to start by talking about something that's been in the news recently. We have this whole issue going on, the SOPA and PIPA Acts. SOPA is the Stop Online Piracy Act. It's currently going through the House of Representatives. And PIPA is the Protect Intellectual Property Act, similar thing going through the Senate. Both have been presented as a way to protect movie studios, record labels, and other content creators. Google, Facebook, Twitter, and others have opposed it seriously. And we're recording this on the 17th. Tomorrow, Wikipedia, Reddit, and others are planning to have a blackout. So I'm curious what the potential problem is with these acts. Can either one of you speak to this issue?
So I had started reading up on some of the, what Wikipedia was looking at doing. The 24-hour blackout. I know it's a protest and such, but I'm not necessarily sure, considering they're already a free kind of service to begin with, how they actually play into, them stopping services. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's a pay-for provider that's stopping those services. Right. So, I know it's a protest. Everybody has that right. But I'd be surprised to see, pay-for kind of companies doing the same.
How about you, Chuck?
I did read up on it as well, and the big thing I noticed is it would give, obviously the government the ability to take off a website if they feel that you're pirating anything, which is Online Piracy Act and whatnot. But what really bothered me is, sites like Facebook, Reddit, basically anybody that shares a picture that's been used before somewhere is in violation. And who says that that's really pirating? Maybe you're just sharing it and giving copyright information. How would anybody know?
All right.
That would just act a little too fast and pull the trigger.
So I'm kind of curious, if this does go through, what do you think the impact will be, and who do we see enforcing this legislation?
Unfortunate fact, the government might step up.
Okay. So we do see the government, probably different agencies there, kind of chasing down the various ISPs and the like to block sites.
Yeah, the other thing would be, what if it's international that's actually doing it? How far would the U.S. government step into that? If it's it's a non-domestic user or company that is infringed on software or image rights or media rights. How far is the government going to take that? Are we going to, start policing the globe for, internet trafficking?
Oh, yes. I'm now, just a little soothsaying. We're recording this a day before the proposed blackout. A little bet on the future. Do we think it's actually going to black out tomorrow? Is Wikipedia going to be out of our lives for a day? So imagine. I'm just trying to imagine to live a day without Wikipedia at this point. Yeah. So... Now, we also have to talk about today cloud computing. And, it's gaining some serious traction in the business world. Essentially, they appear to be headed towards applications like Citrix App, XenApp, and XenDesktop. XenApp virtualizes and delivers your applications, while XenDesktop does the same for your computer's desktop. Can you speak to kind of what's so great about these programs for businesses?
Well, the great thing is, especially if you're talking a fully cloud-hosted, environment, right now it's like, your mom-pop organizations or even large companies dealing with on-premise, infrastructure, whether it's a cloud infrastructure or your old, hosted infrastructure where you've got your client server implementations. Being able to offset some of those applications or services and put them to the cloud, you can see a lot of cost savings. You see a lot of cost savings when it comes from your small organizations, your small, medium-sized organizations, because they're not having to host or deal with the internal IT side. And from a large organizations like your major companies or corporations, being able to offset things that don't necessarily need to be there 24/7. Maybe it's a time basis application or a service. Think right now we're midway through the month of January, and you have the ability to say, hey, we can spin up X number of cloud servers and do our year-end activities, and that way we're not taking away from our production load or our production systems that are needed to do the day-to-day operations. So from a cloud services and cloud servers, and being able to offset either a full company of infrastructure or just specific services, that's a bonus. When you start talking about doing XenApp for for a desktop to hand over to somebody, and they're not using a physical desktop or a laptop, you have the ability to pretty much access that from anywhere. So if you have that hosted either internal to a large company or a hosting provider, having the ability to just pick up a desktop, a laptop, an iPad, your Android tablets, choose your poison when it comes to what you want to use. Your Citrix or VMware, whichever you're using for your back end, you're brokering a connection to something that's not necessarily something in your hands. So you have a lot of range of freedom for what you actually want. You need your apps. You need your apps right now. You don't need your business laptop, or you don't need to go to work to get to your desktop. So by having those services, whether they're desktops or applications, hosted somewhere other than being in your data, in your on your laptop or desktop, being able to push those into the data center, you're creating a much more scalable environment, and being able to access that from anywhere you need to.
Okay. I guess, Chuck, I don't know if you have anything to add. You did a great job explaining that, Mike.
Yeah, no, that was really great. The only thing I would add from a data center / technicals perspective is that if users can access it from anywhere, they don't need their laptop. And it's easier for a tech to say, hey, just go to this website, click this button, and then there's everything that you need.
All right, so a little more on this discussion, essentially. I'm going to talk a little bit about Google Apps, Dropbox, and the Amazon Cloud. Many of the small to medium businesses are using these applications today. Google Apps offers a suite of applications similar to Microsoft Office. Dropbox is a web-based file hosting service. And the Amazon Cloud allows users to rent virtual computers to run their own applications. So I wanted to ask, what are the advantages and disadvantages of these services?
I'd have to say Dropbox is probably one of my favorite applications. I use it for storing personal data, and the thing is, everything uses Dropbox now. The phone that I'm using right now to record this is a Dropbox cable. All my laptops, desktops, tablets, whatever you have, all your files are just right there whenever you need them.
Okay.
And it's not based on the device you're carrying around.
Exactly. So I could make something on an Android tablet and open it on an iPhone.
All right. So you're saying essentially the interchangeability of your files amongst your various devices is one of the key advantages for anybody, essentially, personal or business.
Right.
So at what point does a small to medium business really need to move up to applications like Citrix? You're talking about a major price point difference there. So where would they be when it's time to kind of migrate over to the more mature software?
You definitely get a lot more capabilities. So one of the capabilities that like a provider like Citrix is going to give you, you're not necessarily just getting a desktop, or you're not getting just an application. They give you the full suite. So it's application, desktop, whether you're client OS, your Windows 7, Windows XP. Hopefully that's not being progressed through environments. Server backends. All the stuff comes under the covers. You buy one SKU, you get the full product. Having the ability to have hosted data, hosted internal data center, having the access technology so it's ubiquitous to any device or laptop or desktop or whether if it's a Macintosh or a Windows PC, you're getting all that stuff out of the box and being able to host whatever application you need, and having that at your fingertips. You do have that ability when it comes to some of your other third-party applications. If you're talking like an Amazon Cloud Services, you're not going to get that kind of level. Amazon Cloud Services is just going to get you a dedicated desktop or a dedicated server. You start needing to kind of span out and be able to scale that environment, whether if it's dealing with a managed service provider or a cloud hosting company that deals in Citrix, hosting. You're going to get a lot more bang for the buck and a lot more kind of the things you need from a business standpoint.
Okay.
The only other thing that I would add into that is that you could even have a 5-10 person company, and if you were to come to a provider like us that says we're going to host all your Citrix servers, all you need is a little thin client at your location. You're saving on power, you're saving on cooling the building because you don't have a server running all the time, and basically your disaster recovery is already taken care of because it's on us and it's what we do.
Okay. Now, I want to also go on and talk about some recent Google trends. Google's gone ahead and redesigned Gmail and added some finishing touches and refinements to some of their other applications. Gmail supposedly has a cleaner interface, and I use air quotes there. Cleaner, all sort of depending on your subjective point of view. And Google's recently integrated their Google Plus, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's start with Gmail. If you're a user of Gmail, what do we think of these new changes that they've made?
The only complaint that I have is you need either like Internet Explorer 9 or the newest version of any browser. The thing I miss most is, IE7 was a very stable browser for me, and you can't open the new Gmail anymore without 10,000 pop-ups. You need to update, and this is a security flaw, or, it's just an old browser.
All right, so you feel maybe they've geared it too much towards certain browsers. They haven't really covered the span of browser versions very well.
I get what they're doing, and I believe that they're using, newer versions of HTML, or PHP, whatever they really use to do it. But I just feel like only allowing the newest version of everything. I mean, as Mike always explains to me, N-1 is always a good idea, where you support the current version and one before.
Well, that would make sense. Now, Google has also decided recently to add Google Plus and personalize your search results based on your interaction with Google Plus. So there's many out there who feel that this may be a very detrimental change. So what are our thoughts on that subject?
Well, oddly, Gmail has always had that, kind of in there, like it was intrinsic to using Gmail. As much as it's a free service, you're paying for it some way. It's reading your, Gmail, no lie about it, you have to know it's reading your email. The fact that you hit refresh on your Gmail session and you see specific links that that are usually somewhat tied to what you're actually in your email, whether you're going back and forth with somebody on, hey, how about what games are going on this weekend? You're going to start saying, football showing up as an advertisement. Or, it's baseball season. You're going to see, some stuff coming up for, whatever the latest games are and stuff. Or maybe some products that you've been reading about or going back and forth about. So you start seeing those things show up. So I think that the thing is with Google Plus is almost a natural progression. They see Facebook as being able to, take a huge chunk of user time when it comes to, the social media aspect. And I think Google just pretty much said, hey, you know what, we could do that too. And they just went the next step and said, hey, we've got this platform, let's build on top of it. Me personally, I'm not a huge social media fan, but I think the way Google has presented themselves, being able to lay out and specifically state, certain groups talking with certain groups, you can create your own circles of whether they're friends or colleagues or, what's the commercial they have, ex-girlfriends and such. You have that ability to kind of tailor who you're actually presenting to or talking with. Much like, stepping into a conference room and talking to a set of people. not everybody in the company you're talking to. You're talking to those 5 or 6 people.
Right.
I think one of those things that, as much as Facebook has the ability to do some of that, Google Plus actually has taken that to the next level. And truthfully, it's Google. People are going to use it. So I think that's one of the things that Google has going for it, is that no matter what they do, people are going to use it.
Okay. Chuck, any thoughts on Google Plus, the way it's integrating into your search results?
I haven't honestly used it too much. I'm just kind of playing around with it right now as we speak. But I have to agree with Mike that, looking into it's basically reading everything. I opened up an email, and on the side it said, hey, use Google Maps to find directions to the address in this email. And that's kind of creepy.
Well, one thought that I had about this is that if I were to tell you to search for something like Fandotech or chocolate cupcakes in your browser, my results would be different from yours because of our various interactions with other people inside of Google+. So essentially everybody's getting different results now. Do you think that's going to make supporting these things more difficult?
It's organic. It's tailored to the user. It's not tailored to, for your example, looking up chocolate cupcakes. Well, maybe I like chocolate cupcakes with chocolate frosting, so I've done a little more research when it comes to the chocolate frosting aspect. Whereas you might like vanilla frosting. So it's like you might get tailored results towards the vanilla frosting. And I doubt we're going to go on Google and find something that says vanilla chocolate cupcakes and find something specific. But
right.
as a follow-up to your example, it's like it's tailored to you, and it's organic, and it changes with you. So as much as say for example you're looking up Fandotech, we're an entity, and we're gonna be that entity. But if there's certain offerings within Fandotech that are tailored more towards what somebody was searching for, and then you find the result for say cloud services versus
Boomerang
services on site. So being able to if that's what you're specifically looking for, part of that is actually a lot of it tends to be how the search engine is interpreting what you're looking for, as well as what that website that actually has those results, how it's tailored to respond to you based on engines and search results and how the web crawlers work.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us today, and we'll do this again sometime. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you to all of today's participants. If you have any questions for the panel, leave us a comment on our blog and we'll circle back with you. This webinar will be available for viewing on our blog at blog.fandotech.com, on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Fandotech, and on SlideShare at slideshare.net/Fandotech. Join us next week for another Fandotech Friday 15 Tech Recon, where guest presenter Kathy Hokinson of SiteSeeker will be discussing social media ROI. Register today by visiting blog.fandotech.com and clicking on the Friday 15 logo. This has been a presentation of Fandotech.